now we're recording. Xandra, I'm so happy to talk to you. I can't even stand it.
Oh my gosh. You have no idea. I've been looking forward to this conversation all day, but like also all year since I discovered your work in January. So
Well,
let's do it.
this whole thing began, and I think we're just going to dive right in because I'll do a separate intro, or I guess by the time of listening to this, I will have already done a separate intro for you. But I will tell you, this all began with you sharing a little bit, right? You wrote to me and was like, my wish came true, or I love my wish beads or something. And I said, we have to get your story. But what I actually love about wish beads is that I have met the most fascinating people. And I was so happy to get to know your digital world and get to know you in preparation for this podcast, because I had no idea. There are so many things about your digital world, the work that you do, the perspective that you have in the world that just resonate with me so deeply. So I've shared a little bit about your work, but before we dive into that, tell me a little bit about how you found out about wish beads, and then what happened next.
So I have your book right here.
Awesome.
I won this in a care package from Alexandra Franzen.
Oh yeah.
And like it's all about Taylor Swift. I know that that came up in our email correspondence, but she did a tiny project challenge, and my tiny project was to learn and perform a Taylor Swift song in half an hour. And because of that, I got this wonderful care package that included your book.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. Yes, now I remember. I love Alex. She is just such another heroine of mine, but we'll talk about heroines
Yeah.
later.
And so I didn't open the book, but I took it with me to Disney World in January. It was like, this is the one book I'm going to bring on the plane. And so I did my day one of Wishwork, my visualization on the plane to Orlando from Edinburgh, where I live. And it was just, it was such a transformative time that I keep looking back on, especially this year. I went to Disney World in January 2020, and a
Wow.
couple of months later, the whole theme park was shut. But I got to see my family, and my sister ran the marathon, and that whole experience of like Disney World is a dream come true on its own, but like that is connected to Wishwork for me because like that's when I opened the book.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And was there something that came up specifically for you when you did the visualization? And again, you can do the visualization simply by reading the book. You don't necessarily have to hear me lead it, although there's audio recordings and things like that you can do it on your own. But was there something that came up for you that surprised you?
What surprised me about it was its simplicity. I
Mm,
had this specific visual. I'm a writer, and like my dream life as a writer is not about publication or seeing my words in print. It is the act of showing up to write every day. And to have that visual clarified for me more specifically in doing the visualization on the airplane, I had this like very clear idea of I'm sitting at a white desk there, it's empty and clean, and there's a big window in front of me with a view of trees outdoors. And it took being in quarantine to realize that that wish come true is sitting right in front of me. I'm at that table. I just needed to turn my chair 90
oh,
degrees,
that is so powerful. That is so powerful.
right?
Because, yeah, it's so powerful because I think sometimes we think that our wishes are so esoteric. They're like out there. It's so hard. What are we going to do? So when you saw that moment that it was a shift, and then what happened when you actually came home and you made the shift? I'm assuming you actually took the action.
I, what happened, it was just so obvious. But I was, my I was getting kind of caught up in the idea that this was taking place in the woods
Mm.
and was overlooking the fact that I have a view of trees in the city outside right now that I wasn't looking at. I was facing my desk towards the wall.
Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. And so did you change the location of your desk to face, or did you just spend more time appreciating the trees?
So we have this one table that I'm sitting at now. It's the
Mhm.
podcast table, it's the breakfast table, it's the my office. And what I do now every day is I'm sitting in this folding chair, and I just position it in front of the window like a desk just to do my writing in the morning. And that's like going to the cafe for me now.
It's amazing. I know I love this. I mean, the work that you do has this beautiful simplicity. And I know that minimalism and the whole and simplicity is a key theme in the work that you do as a way to live. And I think that when people are wishing and seeing something, and again, Xandra, there's so much about your story that is parallel to some of the things that have been coming up for me as well. We can think that it is this major shift. It is like, and for my, I'll get specific with my visualization. One of the main themes that I go back to is this place in the woods. Like I know I have specifically a ceramic studio that I've made that's on some property and it's in the woods. I don't know where. And I live in Southern California in an urban area. And even though there is beautiful nature, very similar to you, there are trees outside my window. There's a gap between what I saw in my visualization, what I continue to see in one of my visualizations as it relates to my wish, and then where I am right now. So, very consciously, what I did is bring that experience to me so that even when I'm reading or if I'm sitting down, I am consciously looking at the nature that is already around me and letting that soothe my soul, spark my heart, get me grounded, get me appreciative and paying attention to nature instead of longing for this thing that isn't yet in my current existence. And I think that's a really key component to wishing in general. Like
Mm.
it's to not be in that place of longing where it's uncomfortable or painful or sad or whatever, rather tease that vision to you. And maybe in your case, like you said, just make a simple shift. I'm going to turn my chair. And suddenly there I am. And have you noticed that that energy changes your writing?
It was especially important for me when we were in a deeper stage of lockdown. And what I usually do on a tough day when I need to shake up my energy is I go out and sit somewhere else and get a coffee somewhere. And that wasn't an option for many months. And so I had to learn how to do that for myself at home, how much of a difference it makes to just change the direction of where I'm sitting. And that's a skill that I now have where I can go to the cafes when they open again and use that method, but I also have this more valuable skill of knowing how to make those adjustments at home.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned something about the commitment. Your joy of writing is really in the act of writing itself and the commitment and the discipline of it. And I think that is such a huge heroine trait. In your on your website, Heroine Training, you share all kinds of beauty and insights through the art of communication, through writing, through your podcast, through your membership program. And I would love to know where this sense of discipline came from. And in fact, there is one thing that really stood out to me is when you were young, your desire and goal and wish was to study in Oxford, and you made that happen. So can I like again from your story saying, "My goodness, this girl's incredible." Can you share a little bit about one making that goal to study in Oxford, that sort of that impulse that was like, "I am going to make this happen no matter what." And also the secret that you have to really understanding the power of commitment, of discipline, of doing the work.
Oh, thank you. I love that observation and that question. Thank you. I guess I have to thank my parents for a lot of the discipline side, where just whatever I was involved in from a young age, whether it was theater or a class at school, it was like, if you're committing to something, it was just expected of me to show up and be present all the way and to dedicate myself. My parents were athletes and I was a theater kid, but the philosophy applies to
Yeah.
whatever venture you're doing. So I guess part of the answer is it was just the only way I was taught. But as for Oxford, I count that as like my first big wish. And it's October 7th today. October 10th is my 10-year anniversary of living in the UK.
No way. That's amazing. Like,
It
also another
is.
huge wish. Like, here you are, an American, you married somebody who is from the UK, I'm assuming, but also
Mhm.
going to Oxford. It's amazing. That's an amazing story in and of itself.
Thank you. It was the first big thing that I just knew I really want to go there. I really want to be there. And what happened was, when I was 16 years old, I was at a summer program studying fantasy literature at Oxford. And I'd never been to Europe before. I am a big Harry Potter fan, have
Yeah.
read a lot of books that are based in the UK. And I had seen pictures. I was sort of scouring the brochure of this place. This was like pre Instagram.
Yeah.
And
You actually had to
I
work a little bit to find some
I
images.
had limited options. But when I set foot off the bus, or the coach, they call it here
Yeah.
in Oxford, I felt really silly because I thought that like they had just set up the camera to take the perfect angles of a few key spots that were very like picturesque. But no, like the whole city is like that. You're just
Yeah.
immersed in this world. And I was not surprised that it inspired Wonderland and Middle Earth and Narnia, and all these fantasy
Yeah.
worlds had like a real life place that like was the source of this magic. And it was that, more than any like academic rigor, really, that really drew me to this place of like, this is important to me,
Mm.
and I want to experience this as a student and see where that takes me.
Yeah, I love that, and I also want to go a little bit deeper about Harry Potter, because there obviously there is some really resonant truth in this series that is part of the reason why it catapulted to such fame and continues to have fans. And it definitely was a ride that I loved going on, reading the whole series. But I also love in your work how you took your love of Harry Potter and you really took from the philosophy of it to tap into that magic to heal yourself. And so, if we can talk a little bit about, because I think when people hear about wishing, they sometimes may think, "Oh, well, that's lucky for them. You know, they have it so easy, or they just have this positive outlook on life, and so they have the ability to wish." But I am experiencing a different, let's say, mental health reality or physical challenge, and so it's harder for me to do the
Hmm.
wishing. And yet, I read somewhere in one of your, in some of the work that's online about you, is that you were actually struggling with some depression, and you used the philosophy, the love, the fantasy, the story, the messaging inside of Harry Potter as a source of strength and guidance. And I think that is like, to me, the best part of creativity is that how can creativity, a creative act, those words heal in a way that people that I mean, I'm sure J.K. Rowling didn't maybe quite understand when she was on her creative ride of imagining the world of Harry Potter.
There, yeah, there is a real magic to it that the main thing that comes to mind with me for those books and for every book that I connected with, especially as a child, is that it's this sense that even through pages and through layers of fiction, that somebody else is having a similar experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that in the case of Harry, when he is as much of a misfit as you can be living with the Dursleys, and he gets this letter telling him that all the things that he feels different about and insecure about are what make him a wizard.
Yeah.
And that there's a school of other wizards and witches, and that he'll have this opportunity to be nourished and trained for the strengths that they really are. That is hope.
Yeah.
And that
That is
manifests
right.
itself in so many powerful stories, that it just takes like picking up the right book at the right time to really change my state of mind.
Well, and there's another part. I mean, agreed with you 100%. I think that in this world, especially now under quarantine, people are really suffering from loneliness, from
Mm-hmm.
isolation. I also love that people can find your work as a source to get inspired to go back to literature, to really see the depth and complexity of the books that are out there. And when the temptation is to numb yourself with kind of YouTube videos and games and a place where actually that kind of dampens our imagination because we're just being sort of fed stimulus, really literature, and certainly the literature that you mention in your work and the literature that you write, is an opportunity for people to find themselves in their story, in your stories, and in the stories that you love. And I also appreciate the fact that, this whole idea of heroine training is that, oh, and yeah, I mean, there's so many things, Andrew, I just loved about your work. But one of the themes in my, I was a professional actress. And when I was on set one day having a really kind of like existential moment where I was like, what am I doing with my life? I had this notion that, I wish that everyday people could be the star of their own life. And so I noticed that in your work, it's like looking at parts and examining, what is your own narrative? How are you the heroine of your life? That there are some themes where you can start to embrace the work with love, with curiosity, with creativity, the work of self-discovery. And I think you do it in such an open and honest way, and such a committed way, that I think anybody listening to this can be so inspired by how you are showing up in the world. And I certainly was getting to know you. I was like, this girl's unbelievable. And I so appreciate you being, I just so appreciate the way that you're showing up and creating your work and allowing it to so selflessly inspire others.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so amazing to hear, especially from an actress. I am a lifelong theater kid and learned so much from being cast in different roles and finding myself in different roles. And that really helped. That was like the first training for me, was trying on different characters and really learning to like see myself in different characters instead of seeing it as like pretending to be somebody else. And I think that's the main thing, is like figuring out how to be present with who you are and being happy to tell the story of who you truly are right now, instead of getting distracted by what you think that should look like for whatever reason.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely can attribute my time in training as an actress, and also, working professionally afterward, that was exactly right. Getting to know, especially in theater training, not so much in TV, you tend to be cast more or less in a very tightly defined, pretty much who you are or what you seem to be, right? But with theater training, the idea to step into another person's experience was a very powerful way to learn about, like, just to put another, perspective into your body, let it move your emotions and let it move your physicality, but also see through their eyes and learning empathy that way. So I definitely resonate with that kind of perspective. And I'm sure that it planted very powerful seeds for me to ultimately become a teacher, because it was my first sort of education about human behavior. And but I also have that big bent that I love fantasy as well. So it's interesting how we connect on that. But I also wanted to ask you, what does, here we are in this time where many people are reinventing themselves, sometimes out of necessity, or maybe they have a new experience here in this kind of shutdown time or very unsettling time in 2020, and they're looking to change their story. So I'm curious, what does being a heroine mean to you? What does being a heroine mean to you?
This is a question that I ask myself every week when I do a reflection on my work and I fill in the blank heroine training is, and it's something different every week because it is in motion. So I'll try to answer it fresh. Today, being a heroine means, well, I'll borrow from your Wishwork. What's standing out to me right now is like choosing what to pay attention to. I really benefited from one of the days of Wishwork, which was about that, of like choosing to count the green lights and be delighted by all of the signs that are pointing me to yes, and to like signs that it's all unfolding. And it can be easy to, especially for empathetic people and people who care and want to make a difference, it's so easy to be discouraged or bogged down by all of that. And I find it really energizes me to find things to celebrate.
Yeah.
So being a heroine is insisting on celebrating.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I love that so much. I know that you love the work of Sarah von Bargen, who is a friend and someone I've worked with, and I love her, and Alexandra Franzen, and you. And there are people, that are out there doing the positive work and saying, yes, we are holding the space and the intention, and witnessing and working on the things that feel unjust, and yet also creating an active space where we can move people forward in positivity and purpose and grace and ease and joy and creativity and all the things, because that is the energy, while not wildly popular on social media or even in the media or on the internet. We live in a consciousness right now where sort of the darker message, the heavier message, the stressful message is just kind of more popular in a weird way. But for those of us,
it's addictive.
Yes, it's of course
stress is addictive.
It's totally addictive. And I find that now, because we're in this heightened place where now there is this virus that that is ever changing, and everyone's like, what's next? What's next? And here in the United States, in the time of this recording, we are less than a month away from the election. And that also is like, it is drama of the highest order. And yet, with the idea that we are here at this time, we are trusting, we are loving one another, we are believing in humanity, we are perpetuating the good news of the day. It has to begin with us. And I'm so hopeful when I see someone that is much younger than me, really showing up and being so honest. And again, I'm going to go back to the discipline. I just read, I'm sure, do you know Seth Godin?
I do. Yeah.
So Seth Godin's work. So he wrote a new book that's coming out, The Practice. And I was just doing a pre-read for it to give him a review. And it's all about the discipline, the practice of sitting down day in, day out to do your creative work so that you can put it out into the world, you can ship it. And there are so many parts of that that for some reason in our society, we don't celebrate that. And I celebrate that in you. I see that in you, that somehow you got the golden ticket that said, wow, the grace is in the journey itself, is in the discipline itself of sitting down and making, it's very Kaizen. Do you know the philosophy of Kaizen?
I don't think so.
You will
I'm excited
love
to
this,
learn.
Xandra. Kaizen. So Kaizen is Kaizen, and it's the art of continual improvement. It was made
Oh,
famous.
that's me.
Yeah,
I
it
love
totally is you. Between like the minimalism and the heroine training and like the diving in for the delicious creative inquiry, Kaizen is it was a philosophy that was made famous by Toyota. But I had the pleasure of working with the executive team at Trader Joe's, and their philosophy is Kaizen. In fact, when I was working with all the top executives there, including the CEO, I said, well, anticipation of this training that we're going to do, I'd love to see your like employee manual. And I kept on making this gesture like it was this big thing. Their employee manual was 7 bullet points. That's it. There was no manual. It's 7 bullet points. One of the main ones that I really resonated with was Kaizen. Kaizen means that with humility and creativity, just making every day, every exchange, every choice just a little bit better the next day. Just a little bit better. There is a humility, curiosity, and creativity embedded in that, the art of continual improvement. And when I was building Wishbeads, it was Kaizen, also the philosophy of wabi sabi.
Yes.
Yes. So
that I know.
Yeah. So the art of imperfection is understanding that our journey, even if you were experiencing, let's say, stress and mental, a little depression or a little, whatever your mental health state was. And I bring that up only because you've mentioned that publicly out in the interwebs. That actually, if one could say, well, that could be an imperfection, no. Actually, from that place came such goodness, came such beauty and continued gifts that we all have these things that might be perceived as imperfections or tough challenges in our life, but that's actually where the beauty and the gift is. That's actually what makes it so gorgeous in life, is that it would be quite boring if things were just perfect. You would have such a limited experience. And so I see those philosophies really embedded in your work as well. But yes, you will love Kaizen.
Oh, do you know what the language origin of Kaizen is?
I believe it's Japanese.
Curious. Oh, cool.
Yes.
I have a favorite genre of book that I enjoy is lifestyle books about practices around the world that are hard to translate into English.
Oh, interesting. Is this a book that you're reading or writing?
Oh, reading. Like there's a whole section. So I love books about hygge in Danish culture.
Yes.
I am trying to remember the name of my favorite. I think there's a book about Japanese culture and wabi sabi as well. Yeah. I love reading about French culture, just anything. There's like a whole trend right now. The Scottish one that I really enjoy is called The Art of Corey.
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's fun. It's this Scots word meaning like cuddle in and like be cozy, but there's also an implication of like living locally and working with as much like local produce and art and materials as you can. And there's something like very location specific about like things being like from the traditional land that you're
wow. And how do you spell
enjoying.
that?
Coorie.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing. We'll put a link to that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
when I was in Washington, D.C., we were exploring around. This is, pre whatever, I think it was last year. And we went into the Swedish it wasn't the embassy, but they have like a museum down in Georgetown, and they had a whole exhibit about fika. Do you know fika?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's another favorite. I haven't read a
Yeah.
book about fika yet, but I
Yeah,
love
I don't
the
know if there was a book,
idea of
but
it.
they were talking about sort of like the art of fika. So this mug
Yeah.
that I'm actually using right now, this is a ceramic. So I'm very big into ceramics, and it's a ceramic mug that I got in Hawaii from an artisan in Hawaii when I was on a workshop with Alex Franzen. And so it's like near and dear to my heart. Um, and in the afternoons, I'll have a nice cup of tea and a little something sweet. This is sort of the notion of fika. And it's this idea of like stopping, having a present moment, having a wonderful conversation, having a connection. And it's amazing that, and I don't know what the pulse is or sort of the pace is in Edinburgh, but you know, in America, as you well know, there is a sense, not everywhere, but you know, of just this sort of like, we work a lot here in America.
Hmm.
And so the day can be like, go, go, go. And so it's such a delight to be like, okay, it's time for some fika. And the family knows, like, if someone's free and wants to have a chat or a game of Uno or something, just sort of a moment of connection that is intentionally, you know, in the day that you make space for. And I know that this is a huge philosophy of Alex Franzen's too, that even as you are doing your checklist through the day, that when you prioritize things, you make a commitment to say, it is important to me to also have these other experiences. You need to put them in your calendar. So I haven't so much put fika in my calendar, but I definitely do fika ever since I learned about it. I thought it was brilliant.
I love learning about words that take like a whole story to explain.
Yeah, so cool.
It really emphasizes how language shapes our pace of living. Where like the translation for fika could be like, do you want to get a coffee? But it doesn't literally mean coffee, and it could mean
Yeah.
like as a work networking thing. But fika is very specifically about taking the time.
Yeah. I also love that you have this perspective of, I would call it like the deliciousness of life, the deliciousness of literature. This idea that the heroine training is that you've never arrived. And that's a great thing, that we're always, all of us, in training. And that's how you stay young. You know, there's this always this evolution, and you know, you are young, but you know, I was just hanging out with my mother-in-law who turned 80, and she's still curious and learning, and she's like, I know it's so weird, like I get it, 80 is a big number, and but I don't feel it. And I think that that perspective of that inquiry, the willingness to stay open and present and curious and positive, is something that is such a heroic superpower, that the more people can do that, the more that you're really drinking the nectar of life. And that is the energy of making your wishes come true. That is. It's not like some fairy coming down. And I say Wishbeads and Wishwork, they're not magic. You are magic. You are magical. We are all magical beings capable of writing our own story. And when you can get curious and open to like fika or wabi sabi or kaizen, or like you get curious, suddenly you have so many options. You know, you have so many different ways of creating the world. And right now we need that. You know, we need that energy. So it's not just for yourself to have this neat little fairy tale experience. It's really about harnessing that energy so that it can be here on the planet for other people to feel and experience, and hopefully inspire them to do the same.
Absolutely. It is a choice, and that's what's so powerful about reading your book, Alexa, and hearing the same things that I believe in echoed back to me in your words, and to get that experience of, she gets it too. Let's do this together. Good thing I found another one who's doing this. And The way that I like to think about it with fairy tales is when we really take a look at what's happening in fairy tales and what's happening in these adventure stories that I love. Like, my program is called Everyday Wonderland, and I say that not to like glorify a fantasy world, but if you really look at what happened to Alice in Wonderland, it was full of challenges and obstacles, and
Yeah.
we read that story and enjoy the adventure. So we have that choice in our everyday lives to choose to see the obstacles that we face and the challenges that we face as mini adventures.
Yeah. I love that. Xandra, let's go in. I want to share with the listeners and the viewers, tell us about your work, how people can find you, how people can learn from you.
My work is all on heroinetraining.com. That is my website and my digital home, where I publish essays which are like chapters in my life. What I really enjoy doing is figuring out something important in my life and telling the story when it's fresh so that I can share the whole process with everyone who's reading. And it'll often include many allusions to fictional worlds and my favorite TV shows and novels and video games. And there's also a secret portal side of things in Everyday Wonderland, the community that I lead, which is about finding wonder where you already are. And that is told through weekly postcards with 1-minute calls to adventure.
Oh, I love that. So it's just another version of Wishwork. It's fantastic.
It is. Yeah.
I know. So I'm sure, it's so true when you see somebody, and that's exactly how I felt when I saw you. And wait, side note, is Xandra, is that your full name? Because my full name is Alexandra. Is
mine.
Wow.
They're
I
like
shouldn't
two
be
puzzle
surprised.
pieces.
Totally. Because our name means defender of mankind. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Oh my God, it's perfect. Yes, our name actually means defender of mankind.
Wow.
So the imprint of our name is part of the secret energy behind why we do what we do. Because there is this idea that you could be writing all of this for yourself, but there's another part of your destiny that is about helping mankind. And while we may not be the predominant voice in the consciousness right now, we are the seed planters. We are the ones who are just willing to go our own way and say, no, this is how we are choosing to show up in the world. And so, soul sister,
Yeah.
it is nice to know that you're out there doing the things, Xandra. Cool, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Alexandra Franzen can join too.
Yeah, she's the coolest.
Our special
so funny.
club.
So she's like Alex, I'm Alexa, Xandra. Oh, and by the way, that Amazon Alexa, just the fact, as annoying as it is when I call people and their other person's device goes off and then they have to silence them, which happens to me every day. The fact is, all these people saying, Alexa, 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 it is an energy in and of itself. I don't think it's a mistake that we are calling defend us, mankind. Like mankind needs to be defended right now.
Help.
Right? I think it's interesting. I really do.
Wow.
As soon as I heard that, I'm like, interesting. I mean, it's better than calling in a different kind of energy. Words are spells, that's what my friend Teresa Reed says. Words are spells. So it's very interesting. So I'm with you. This idea of like, if we're living in a fairy tale and like those grim fairy tales, holy smokes, those are dark. And so, this idea that we can be facing these really wild times, really extreme characters, and how can we spin this to be the hero or the heroine of our own life? It is possible. It is possible. And a movie that I have been thinking about showing my kids, which we just haven't seen, is Life is Beautiful. Have you seen that film?
Oh, I don't know it.
Oh, Xandra.
Leaving with homework.
You're leaving with homework. I'm giving you some homework. Tell me more. Life is Beautiful. I actually really shouldn't tell you anything about it.
Okay.
You just have to go.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I don't want to give you anything. I'm just telling you, girl, life is beautiful. because if you want to talk about spinning a story from darkness and about perspective, that's the one. It's brilliant. I'm going to watch it again myself. I haven't seen it in a long time, but Life is Beautiful is powerful stuff. So I'm going to give that to you as a little homework assignment.
Okay. A favor bag. Thank you.
But also just getting back to your work. So we've got heroinetraining.com. You have a membership site, Wonderland. Wait a minute. I just lost the whole
Everyday
thing.
Wonderland.
Everyday Wonderland. So if you want continual inspiration, and can people sign up both on your website and then through Patreon?
Yes. So
Okay.
the membership is managed through Patreon, and you can read more about it on my website. There's actually a secret key on my homepage, so look out for that.
Okay, I have explored your homepage and I haven't found the secret key, but I am loving that you even created one. So that is fabulous. So was one of your favorite books as a kid A Wrinkle in Time?
I actually haven't read A Wrinkle in Time.
Oh, Xandra. Whoa.
Is there a secret key?
Just the whole thing you will love.
Oh, just the whole thing. Okay.
You absolutely have. Okay, I'm giving you lots of homework.
I love this. I have a tendency to like exchange reading lists at the end.
Okay, very good. Please
calls.
send them my way, girl. I want all the ones back because I mean, like The Mists of Avalon. Have you read that? That's kind of thick.
I haven't. No.
Oh, there's some good ones for you. But no, really, The Wrinkle in Time is like a young adult reader. It's super, super great. It's a classic. Madeline L'Engle, it's incredible. Life is Beautiful film, absolutely must see. But anyway, yes, those are some key ones. But anyway, I'm getting distracted. And you also have a podcast. So tell us a little bit about your podcast as well.
I have a podcast network, actually. So I have a few podcasts. Since we're talking about TV and film right now, I have one with my sister called What's Your Favorite Part? Which is a question she has been asking my family after we go to the movies since she was like 10 years old. And
oh my gosh, that's adorable.
Yeah. So we have a podcast where we talk about TV and film and character development with a gentle focus on representation, which is important to us as well. And I also have a show called The Art Life with my friend Grace Gordon, who's also an actress. And we talk about the process of being an artist, which is very relevant to this conversation that we're having today. It's about the daily life practices, and we love to discuss that and learn about artists' daily lives, because so much of what we are exposed to is the finished product. We see the movie, but we don't see the rehearsal process and the audition process and the meals cooked on a daily basis. So that's what we're really interested in.
Which I love, which I think you'll love Seth Godin's book when it comes out called The Practice. There is also a beautiful book that is a nonfiction book, if you haven't read it, called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
That's a favorite of mine.
Yeah, it's really, I think that pulling back the curtain in our sort of Instagrammable world where people are so accustomed to sort of seeing something that's somewhat finished, I think that there is so much beauty in really uncovering the process. And one of my favorite, I'm a pretty hardcore entrepreneur, but one of my favorite podcasts is How I Built This. And you really get to hear, you really get to hear, really some of the most successful people and really understand that their journey has to include, audacious goals and ups and downs and bumps and bruises and where it almost didn't work out and the drama of that and the realization that it's actually the best part. It's really the best part. I know that as soon as I ship something and I finish it, the next thought is what's next, because it's really the joy of the journey. But I so applaud you, and I'm going to include all the links for everybody listening to find more about Xandra Robinson Burns, to dive into her beautiful digital space, to listen to her words, to sign up for her membership, to just, let it spark your curiosity and help, you live the life, the heroine that you were born to live, or the hero, or whatever you want to call yourself.
Protagonist term of your preference.
Exactly. But it's exciting to meet you. And I felt the same way when I was looking at your world. I was like, this girl is a kindred spirit. And I I just wish you all the best in the world. I can't wait for what you wish for next.
Thank you. Well, I can give you a little preview that I am actually going to start a series on heroine training about my new wish. So that is coming this month to
Amazing.
look
Well,
forward to.
keep me
Yeah.
posted. We can always do a follow-up recording, but any updates or whatever, I will constantly be updating this link once it goes live. So yes, make sure to send us and keep us informed of all the things that you are doing, because I think when we hear stories, it gives us that courage and inspiration to keep taking action for ourselves. That's the whole purpose here, is just to move people forward so that they can live their best life. And so, yes, you absolutely must keep us informed.
I will. I promise.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, thank you, Xandra. I'm so happy that we connected. I'm happy that you are moving in the direction of your dreams each and every day. And I thank you for the work you're putting out into the world.
Likewise, thank you for this invitation and this hour, and for the wish work that you do. I love hearing about how everyone else's wishes are manifesting, and it really is contagious um, to hear about other people's wishes coming true. So thank you for sharing those stories.
Oh, you're welcome. And to everybody listening and watching, thank you for sharing your energy with us. I hope you keep wishing what you desire, you are capable of. And stay open. Keep putting that good vibes into the world, because my goodness, we need it more than ever. Thank you, Xandra.
Thank you.